All right, let's dive into this industrial engineering thing, huh?
Yeah, it sounds like you're ready to go pretty deep on this one.
Definitely more than just dipping my toes in. We're talking full-on deep dive here with RoleCatcher's December 2023 career guide and some extra info on their platform. Looks like someone's thinking about a career shift.
Maybe, maybe. But even if not, who doesn't love a little efficiency in their life, right?
True, true. Okay, so this career guide, there's a lot here. Let's just jump right into the good stuff. What do industrial engineers actually do?
So at its core, industrial engineering is about maximizing efficiency.
Okay, so we're talking like assembly lines, robots, that kind of thing.
Or it can be, but it's so much broader than that. We're talking systems level thinking, optimizing how things actually work. And that could be anything from, sure, a factory floor to like the layout of a hospital.
Oh, wow, I never really thought about it like that. So it's not just factories and robots.
No, not at all. Like, imagine a busy emergency room. An industrial engineer could design systems to, say, improve patient flow, cut down on those wait times.
And potentially even save lives.
Absolutely.
So you're really looking at both the micro and the macro level of how systems work.
Exactly. We zoom in, we zoom out. But we're always looking for ways to make things, better. It might be streamlining a single process to, like, eliminate wasted time, or it could be completely redesigning a complex system for maximum output, minimal waits, that kind of thing.
So the RoleCatcher guide mentioned high demand in this field, but also high pressure. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I'd say so. It's not your typical 9 to 5, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You've got to be comfortable with, problem solving on the fly, often in pretty demanding environments, actually.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because technology is always evolving, lifelong learning is, like, key here.
All right. Challenge accepted. So let's say the pressure doesn't scare you off. You're ready to climb that career ladder. The RoleCatcher guide breaks it down in stages from entry level all the way up to senior. What were some of your big takeaways from that progression? How does the work itself change as you get more and more experience?
It's really interesting how the focus kind of shifts, throughout your career. At the entry level, you're really like a sponge. You're soaking up knowledge, you're assisting those more senior engineers. You might spend a lot of time like collecting data, analyzing it, learning the ropes of how different systems work.
Right. Got to learn to walk before you can optimize the entire plant.
Exactly. And then you move up to junior engineer, you start getting your hands dirty, You're designing systems, you're optimizing procedures, you're really putting those problem-solving skills to the test.
And I'm guessing leadership becomes a bigger deal once you hit that mid-level stage.
You got it. It's not just about your individual contributions anymore. Now you're leading teams, you're developing strategies for larger projects, mentoring junior staff. Your impact's definitely expanding.
And to round it out, becoming a senior industrial engineer, that sounds like what? You're practically running the show at that point?
It can feel like that sometimes. You're thinking big picture, long-term planning, maybe even spearheading, like the adoption of some cutting-edge technology. You're really become a leader in the field, shaping the future of efficiency for, your whole organization, maybe even the entire industry.
Okay, this is officially on my radar now. This field sounds fascinating. But for anyone listening who's thinking, this is so me, but how do I even get started? What are the academic pathways RoleCatcher recommends?
It's actually not as narrow as you might think. I mean, obviously, a degree in industrial engineering is a great foundation. But, there are other paths.
Like what?
Things like manufacturing engineering, operations research, even ergonomics. They all have these threads that weave right into the world of industrial engineering.
So you're really drawing from all these different disciplines to create these really elegant solutions for a huge range of problems.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so cool. You're always learning, always applying knowledge from all these different areas to solve these really complex challenges.
Okay, so you've got the industrial engineering degree, but how do you actually land the dream job? That's where RoleCatcher's platform comes in, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
They've got this huge database of interview questions, like specific to industrial engineering, and AI tools to help you tailor your resume for each job you apply to.
Right, because it's 2024. Gotta love when AI is your career coach.
Mhm.
But actually, you mentioned something earlier that got me thinking. You said even at the entry level, industrial engineers need to stay updated on industry trends. What does that actually look like in practice?
It's a good question. I mean, it's one thing to have that baseline knowledge, right? But you also have to stay ahead of the curve, be aware of what's next.
So reading industry publications, going to webinars, that kind of thing.
Yeah, all of that.
Yeah.
But also thinking about things like, automation, AI itself,
Mhm.
machine learning, those are really changing the game for industrial engineers.
Oh, for sure.
So it's not enough to just know this stuff from a textbook.
You got to be ready for what's coming down the pipeline.
Exactly. And I think at that entry level, being able to show that you're proactive, that you're keeping up with all that, that can really make you stand out.
So it's not just what you know, it's showing that you're eager to keep learning and growing.
100%. Now, as you move into that junior engineer role, RoleCatcher actually emphasizes the importance of collaboration. Did anything stand out to you about that stage?
Definitely. They talk a lot about working on cross-functional teams, implementing process improvements. Seems like being a team player is pretty non-negotiable.
Yeah, no kidding. I think that's a key takeaway here. Industrial engineers rarely work in isolation. You got to be able to communicate clearly, collaborate with people from like all different backgrounds.
Right, because you've got engineers and then you've got managers and then you have, the people actually working on the production line.
Exactly. Everyone plays a role. And as the industrial engineer, you're kind of the one, bringing it all together.
So not only do you need those technical skills, but you've got to be a people person too.
It's a good mix. And as you can imagine, those people skills, they become even more important as you move into that mid-level role.
Right, because now you're the one mentoring junior staff, leading these teams, navigating all those like workplace dynamics.
Yep, that's it exactly. It's not just about designing the system anymore. Now you're
Yeah.
managing the human element within it, which honestly, that can be the trickier part sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, last question on this career progression before we move on. When you look at that senior industrial engineer profile, what's the one skill or quality that to you is like totally indispensable at that level?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
I'd have to say the ability to make truly data-driven decisions.
Interesting.
Because by that point, you're dealing with such complex systems, huge data sets.
Mhm.
You can't just go with your gut anymore.
Right.
You have to be able to analyze all that data, find the trends, and then actually use it to make strategic choices. And those choices are going to affect, the whole organization.
Data, the industrial engineer's superpower. We should definitely dig into that a bit more in a bit. But first, RoleCatcher had some good stuff about like the interview process itself. What were some of their must-know tips for anyone going through that?
So they really stress the importance of tailoring your prep to, each specific role and the company you're interviewing with. One thing they highlighted was like being able to actually articulate your passion for industrial engineering.
Okay, interesting.
It's not enough to just, list off your skills. Interviewers want to see that you're actually jazzed about this stuff, that you really care about optimizing and improving systems.
It's almost like you need to tell your industrial engineering origin story.
Uh-huh. Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Like what drew you to this field in the first place? What kind of impact do you want to make? Being able to answer those questions authentically, I think that goes a long way.
Right, because passion is contagious. And speaking of standing out, I have to ask about these AI tools RoleCatcher was talking about. They mentioned something called a RoleCatcher Copilot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, think of that as like your AI career coach. It basically analyzes these massive job boards and finds the positions that are actually good fit for your skills and experience.
That's pretty cool.
But then it goes even further, right? It helps you like optimize your resume and cover letter, like suggests keywords, phrases that are going to catch the attention of recruiters and like those applicant tracking systems.
Oh, wow. So we've talked about how to prepare for the job search, how to ace that interview. But what about once you're actually in? What does RoleCatcher suggest for like staying ahead of the curve, making sure you keep moving up in this field?
They're big on certifications.
Makes sense.
Specifically, they mentioned the certified manufacturing engineer, the certified Lean Six Sigma Green Belt, even the project management professional certification, actually.
So it's about taking that initial degree and then constantly adding new skills, new credentials to your toolbox.
Exactly. Those certifications not only prove you have the knowledge, but they show you're serious about, your professional development, that you want to be at the forefront of the industry.
And that, my friends, is how you future-proof your career. Okay, but let's go back to something we were talking about earlier, something that really stood out to me in this RoleCatcher guide.
What's that?
The importance of data in industrial engineering. They kept mentioning data analytics, data-driven decision-making. Can you help me wrap my head around that? Like, what does that actually look like day to day?
Totally. Okay, so imagine you're an industrial engineer and you're working in say, a factory that makes smartphones.
Okay, got it.
Every single step in that process, From putting the phones together to, packaging them up to ship out.
That's generating tons of data.
Mountains of it. We're talking like databases full of information.
Yeah.
And this is where it gets interesting. By analyzing that data, you can actually start to see patterns, trends, things you'd never notice just by looking at the factory floor.
So instead of just seeing a bunch of numbers, you're seeing the story those numbers are telling.
Exactly.
What kind of story are we talking about? Give me an example.
Okay, so let's say you're looking at this data from the manufacturing plant. You might discover that like a tiny change to the order of the assembly line, like switching 2 steps around,
Okay.
could actually shave like 15% off the total production time. Or you might find that one particular machine on the line, it's got a way higher error rate, but only during the evening shift.
Wow, that's wild. So you're not just reacting when something goes wrong, you're using the data to find those areas for improvement before they even become problems?
That's the idea. It's about being proactive.
But how do you actually take all that data and make decisions from it?
Right, so that's where the decision-making part comes in. Once you've got those insights from the data, you actually use them, right? You use them to make smart choices about the system.
So in those examples you gave.
Yeah, so maybe you adjust the maintenance schedule for that one machine that's acting up, or, you actually tweak the whole assembly process based on what the data is telling you.
So it's about turning raw data into actionable insights.
Exactly. And that's the power of industrial engineering. It's not just about understanding how things work, but using that understanding to make them work better. We're optimizing, innovating, creating these more efficient systems. We can apply that across industries, really.
So to be a good industrial engineer, you need to be part detective, part data scientist, part efficiency superhero.
Huh. I like that. Yeah, it's a dynamic field, always changing, which makes it, challenging and exciting.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive. We've covered what industrial engineers actually do, how they impact so many different industries. We even got into how RoleCatcher can help people launch their career in this field.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty cool career.
It really does. So as we wrap up here, do you have any final words of wisdom for our listeners who are now seriously considering this path?
If you're someone who loves problem solving, who gets fired up about efficiency, if you're excited by the idea of using data to actually make a difference in the world, industrial engineering could be a really great fit. Just embrace that challenge of always learning, always growing, because there's always a better, more efficient way to do things.
And hey, maybe you'll be the one to design the system that revolutionizes an entire industry, or even saves lives like we were talking about.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
On that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Until next time, keep those brains engaged, and remember, the world is full of systems just waiting to be optimized.